It's July 3rd, 2026. Welcome to my Primitive Fire Challenge in celebration of our country's Semiquincentennial anniversary. Say that 3 times real fast. Semiquincentennial anniversary, Semiquincentennial anniversary, Semiquincentennial anniversary. Okay, wasn't that hard. But at any rate, what I want to do here is show you a primitive fireworks display when you achieve success that rivals, at least it will rival in your own experience, the thrill of watching a fireworks show. This is a challenge the challenge for me to be successful, and you can make up your own rules, is I am going to only use materials sourced from my less than 1 acre lot. The challenging conditions are temps in the mid-90s with humidity above 80% and mosquitoes ever present and biting. So in other words, real world summertime conditions here in the Southeast. My only tools are a bushcraft knife and a Swiss Army knife with a saw blade. I pre-made the bearing block, the bow, and the bowstring. And the bowstring is 550 paracord. So if you try to use natural fibers for a bowstring, it's extremely difficult, especially in challenging conditions, because the string wears out very quickly. It may only last for 3 to 7 attempts. And just to let you know, I use 2 different fire boards, 6 different fire holes, 5 different spindles, and about 18 attempts in order to make this video. The biggest challenge is the humidity and the limited wood choices. When the humidity is high, the wood that's dry absorbs the moisture, making it difficult to ignite. Specifically, the moisture and the fire are just not compatible with each other. They're not friends. Many woods are more prone to producing granules instead of the desired ultrafine powder, and these granules have a higher ignition temperature and less surface contact with each other. When they do ignite, the ignition process cannot sustain itself because of the limited contact between the granules. Certain woods, such as oak, the wood I used initially here, already tends to produce granules. If you add high humidity, to that, the situation is very difficult. And it took about 7.5 hours over 2 days to get a successful fire. Imagine if this fire was needed to purify your drinking water. You're tired, you're hot, you're mosquito bitten, and thinking about it like this brings some realism and urgency to the process. Even true experts can struggle in these conditions. So let's give it a try. Here are the materials that I used for this video. This is my oak fireboard with 4 drill holes in it. This is the oak spindle, which I was unsuccessful with. Here's a maple spindle, which I was also unsuccessful with. I was unsuccessful with this wood, not sure what it is. I did get a coal with this goldenrod spindle, but that was outside of the limits I put on myself. Then I switched to cedar fireboard, cedar spindle, and then my bearing block is a pitch pine bearing block that's self-lubricating because of the pitch. And then my tinder is outer bark of cedar and also incorporated some punkwood. This is our first attempt using the oak fireboard with the oak spindle. It'll be a little bit rough here getting started while the spindle carves itself to match the fire hole, and the fire hole carves itself to match the spindle. And so in a few seconds we'll see this smooth out and the rotational speed will pick up. So starting to smooth out a little, speed picking up a little, and we get faster. And as the speed picks up, I'm able to add more pressure to it. We're getting some smoke there. Dust is starting to be produced. You may want to zoom in if you want to see close up what's happening near the where the fire hole and the spindle are working together. Now we get to the point where we're producing a lot of smoke, but there's also a lot of friction going on, a lot of effort being put out here. And we look, and if you look closely, you saw a whiff of smoke there that as soon as I stopped drilling, there was a whiff of smoke, and then the ignition process stopped. So one of the first things I will look at is how well the spindle is matching up to the fire hole, making sure that it's touching the bottom and producing plenty of friction, and it is. But then our real concern here is the dust. The dust, when we look at it, is granular, and we want a fine powder, not granular. This is very much like I talked about earlier with moisture in the wood, and also oak has this issue. Got to work on this situation. So after somewhere between 14 and 17 failed attempts, all of them were, with the exception of one, was caused by the granules were just too big being produced by the wood. So I switched to the cedar, and you'll see that there's two holes in this cedar block. The first one, I almost got a fire with it, but then my bowstring started slipping. So that was the cause of the failure on that one. So fire hole number 2, we're going to use this and produce a coal. I would just notice the amount of effort that it has taken, and this is primarily because of moisture. You'll be able to see, like starting right here, that the startup process was much more smooth with the cedar than it was with the oak, and the speed gets up faster. Sorry about it's not the best angle there, but you can zoom in a bit and see what's going on with down near where the contact point is. But the speed will get very high. I'll start adding pressure. It'll start producing a good bit of smoke and a lot of dust. But the effort involved is quite high. In fact, at the end there, I had to push really hard. And this is all because of moisture content in the wood and this 80+% humidity. And I'll show you some more evidence of that here in a minute. You see that the smoke disappeared for a little bit, and then it went into the state that it was sustaining itself, and then the smoke came back. So we have a viable coal here going on. One thing that you can't see happening is there's a bit of a thunderstorm moving in, and scattered drops of rain have hit. One of them was close to an inch from my coal here. So I would have used this punk wood as a coal extender anyway, but with the rain coming, I'm going to put a piece beside it, get it going, and then lay another piece of punk wood a little bit over the top of that. So if it does get a direct hit from a raindrop, it hopefully will survive. At this point, the punk wood, both little pieces of punk wood are ignited there, and I will grab my tinder bundle, which is the cedar bundle that I showed you earlier. just pretty small. If you're actually in a situation where you've got to get a fire, your tinder bundle should be at least twice this size. But anyway, we'll make a little nest there, and then we will use the maple leaf and the saw blade on my knife to transfer the dust and the ignited punk wood into the cedar tinder bundle. So it's nothing to be hurried about. Well, for me, I don't know if rain's going to start coming or not, which would be a problem. But there's nothing to really be hurried about. This thing is going to burn for a long time and produce a lot of heat. One of the things you have to do is you have to close it up and insulate it. Because if you just let the ember sit against and you don't have anything covering it to insulate the heat in, it's going to be a lot harder to get that heat to the 800 or so degrees that are necessary to ignite the tinder bundle. So as you saw, I closed it up a little bit too much, and I opened it back up to give it a little more air. You have to be careful, but not super careful. And then I'm going to top this off a little bit with some more little pieces of cedar. And then I want all of the heat to be going up to the thicker part of the bundle, which is the part that's sitting on the ground right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it upside down so that the heat's going up into the thicker part of the bundle, and we'll blow it into flame from here. Now, one interesting thing about this moisture is the outer bark of cedar is, it's been a number of days since it's rained, and this has been sitting in a dry area anyway, but there's still enough moisture in there that it's taking longer than normal and more heat than normal to get this to ignite into a flame. And if you zoom in on it, you can see the redness start to come up in the middle, but it's still taking it a while to dry out and finally burst into flame, as we see here. And then when the flame starts, it has a tendency to die down and go out. So have to nurse it along a bit to get it to work. And I'll add some small sticks here. We're not really trying to make a fire. We're just trying to prove that we've got sustainable fire available to us that we could start a larger fire with if we needed it. So I'll add some sticks here and get those to ignite. And that's enough at least to satisfy me that once those sticks ignite that I was successful in getting the fire going. So if you enjoy videos like this, subscribe to our channel. Make sure you like the video. Leave comments if you'd like to see something different. I'll do another one later with some birch bark, or not, well, actually a birch limb. We use birch rather than cedar as our board and our spindle. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a happy Semiquincentennial, and we will see you in the next video.